Professor Heinz Zwierzina from Austria. You're now in ASCO in Chicago, and that's exciting, but you're very busy, so I won't keep you long. Thank you for talking with eCancer. Now, you've set up a pretty unique initiative called BDA from Innsbruck in Austria. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, the BDA is the Biotherapy Development Association, which was created some 8 years ago, I think. It's actually a spin-off of an EOTC group where we brought together preclinical and clinical scientists with the aim to do translational research, to connect a lot of translational research to our early clinical trials. Because the old endpoints of toxicity, phase 1, as well as the response rate or the response for phase 2 are only partially valid any longer. So these new drugs, these biologicals or molecular targeted therapies may not be very toxic, and to achieve an optimum biologically active dose is much more important than to achieve the maximum tolerated dose. On the other hand, the efficacy is also kind of a problem sometimes because these drugs act cytostatic, and so if a tumor is controlled for a long period of time, that maybe achieve the same value for the patient as a clinical response. And these composition of preclinical and clinical scientists enables us to do a lot of translational research, which is required.
But also, your meetings, you make a point of inviting the regulators along and discussing trial design and so on. And does that work? Do they come? Do they listen?
Yeah, actually, it works very well. Initially, we were designed as a group to do early clinical trials, but then more and more it turned out that we can provide a platform for all the 3 parties, as well as patient advocacy groups from time to time. So we provide a platform of the regulators, industry, and academia, and discuss scientific issues as well as pharmaco-economic issues. But the prerequisite for us is that all the 3 parties are always gathered at our meetings.
And you were describing to me a tension between pharma and academia, that there's not enough money around anymore for academics to do academically driven studies, and more we're finding in the cancer centres that we're becoming dependent on sponsorship by pharma. This is a threat. It's real or imaginary?
I absolutely agree. Of course, we are also indirectly funded by the industry, but we get non-restricted grants and absolutely free what we do with the money. So we can choose the topics we discuss. And one planned future meeting is on investigator-initiated trial, which are key, I think, because though the pharmaceutical industry does lots of very good clinical trials, they, of course, are market-oriented, which is fine, but there must be also a strong academia who do their niche research, clinical trials in rare disorders, or combinations the pharmaceutical industry wouldn't do. And the BDA is keen, among other things, to emphasize in the future this approach and set up a network, if possible, in Europe.
So here at ASCO, you've heard, hasn't everybody heard, about ipilimumab? This must be a wonderful lift to your heart, having spent many, many years in translational research in bio and immunotherapy.
Right. Immunotherapy is very close to my heart, and after these failures of the past, I would say 10 years, we had a lot of vaccines where very interesting data came out of phase 2 trials, but all these vaccines and immunomodulators were negative in phase 3. So this is important, I think, for the community that we have now one drug approved, the autologous tumor vaccine and prostate cancer, and now another CTLA-4 antibody has shown for the first time in late-stage melanoma as a survival advantage when patients are treated with it. So this is very important, and I guess more financial support will now also come again into the system of meetings running at studies as well as meetings on these issues.
Do you think in the immunotherapy area we've been too sort of fixated by developing immune approaches targeted to the tumour cells, whereas this anti-CTLA-4 antibody is actually suppressing the T-cell suppressor, as I understand it? So it's got nothing to do with the genetic makeup of the tumour cell at all.
Well, at the end of the day, I think we still are at the very beginning of understanding all these immunomechanisms. It's such a complex network, and I think it's from a, so to speak, non-scientific point of view, it's just important that we have one drug or two drugs now that are really active and demonstrated activity. Now, the mechanisms are complex, and usually when I'm giving talks on that, I always mention the example of Herceptin. If we had developed Herceptin in breast cancer, we would have failed. But the company was wise enough to develop it in HER2-positive cancers only, so there was the target there. But no immunomodulatory drug was ever tested for the target in a broad variety of patients. So it was just a straightforward approach: treat one group with the immunomodulator, the other not, and then see what the outcome is. We need much more mechanistic studies to understand that.
And these two positive results will help us along the way?
I think so, because of course we need the input from the companies to support us also in academia, and I guess that has been a precedent.
Heinz, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate it.
Pleasure, Gordon.
Thank you.